Hello, and welcome to the Overflow Podcast. My name is Craig Booker. In this episode, we're going to be talking about you reap more than you sow. A lot of the material for this week's episode was inspired by Craig Groeschel's book, The Power to Change Mastering the Habits That Matter Most. Note, I will talk a lot about mental health, but please note this is not a substitute for therapy or mental health care. I am not a counselor or physician. If you need help with mental health challenges, please find a qualified mental health professional. In this episode, we're going to be talking about you reap more than you sow. So last week we talked about you reap what you sow. This is kind of taking that one step further. In last week's episode, we were talking about habits and sowing the right habits to receive the results that we're wanting to see in our lives. And so in this section of the book, Craig Groeschel is kind of continuing that discussion of you reap what you sow by visiting this concept of you reap more than you sow. For individuals that are familiar with maybe farming or agriculture, are probably going to have a leg up or an advantage here in understanding these concepts. Jesus used this metaphor of sowing seeds because that was something very familiar to the people in that time. For our time, this is a little bit more challenging because a lot of people are not familiar with those terms. A quote here, it says from Craig Groeschel, it says, "You don't just reap what you sow, you reap more than you sow." If you put a kernel of wheat in the ground, it will produce a stalk with 3 heads of wheat. A head can contain 15 to 35 kernels. So this is reinforcing this idea that you reap more than you sow. Craig Groeschel says this is true in agriculture and it's also true in life. So it brings up the question, why do you reap more than you sow? The first one is the cumulative effect. And the cumulative effect is the powerful outcome produced by an action that happens, even if it's small, over and over across a long period of time. So he gives this example in this section of what he calls the magic penny. He's presenting this kind of this a little bit of a maybe a riddle. It's like if I said I would give you this magic penny that doubles every day for a month. So on the first day it's 1 penny, the second day it's 2, the third day it's 4, and so on. Or I could say I would just give you $5 million. Like, which one would you choose? So at the end of the 36 days, that penny would be worth $5,368,709, unless it's a 31-day month, then double the extra day and it would be worth 10,737,418. If you're familiar with these type of questions, sometimes they kind of seem like trick questions, and they kind of are. So most people would choose the $5 million, right? Because you would never think that this magic penny that doubles every day would amass to that much money. It says you would be a fool to take the $5 million. But so often we settle because we discount the cumulative effect, like this is talking about in our lives. We settle because we discount the cumulative effect, the powerful impact of something happening over and over for a long period of time. All right. So that's the first one, the cumulative effect. And then he talks about the compound effect. This is typically called compounding interest. It's used in reference to finances. This is the interest you get on the interest. Grasping the significance of these principles will change your life. In fact, they have already shaped your life. And it says, who you are today is because of the cumulative and compound effects. In his special message at the beginning of Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect, Anthony Robbins writes, decisions shape your destiny. Little everyday decisions will either take you to the life you desire or to disaster by default. He's referencing this book by Darren Hardy called The Compound Effect. It's an interesting read if you're a person that likes to read or listen to audiobooks. But it talks about the power of compounding interests. All right. So in the book, Craig Rochelle breaks down these different areas of life, and he starts out. He's trying to apply these concepts to different parts of life, and he starts out with financial, and he goes more into detail in this. But I was trying to pick out the high points from it. And it says, if you want to win financially, start now and consistently do the small right thing. He also talks about physical, right? And so the quote says, if you eat just 100 more calories than you burn every day, you will gain 10 pounds in a year. A quote from James Clear. James Clear writes, time magnifies the margin between success and failure. It will multiply whatever you feed it. Good habits make time your ally. Bad habits make time your enemy. Another quote from Craig Rochelle, it says, a small difference each day adds up and multiplies over time. So he's further, emphasizing these concepts that we've just covered and really just highlighting the importance of the small things we do every day. He goes into the next section of spiritual. It says, you read about a spiritual hero like Billy Graham, or maybe you've met someone that that's in your life and they're really close to God and they have a powerful impact on people for him. And this is going to cause a lot of people to want to be or to want to have what they have. You desire to be like this person. There's a reason those people are tight with God and have become a spiritual force. They consistently do spiritual disciplines that connect them to God. So, these individuals are, spending time in the Word. They're spending time praying and seeking God, and they're doing this consistently, just like the habits we've talked about. And this is showing the results of those disciplines. All right. So we also have a section that he titled The Small Stuff. And, I don't know how internationally well known this book was that he talks about, but in the US, I don't know how long ago it was, but there's this book that was titled Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And so, kind of the consensus of it was that you realize that it's all small stuff. He says when that's about worry, that's fine. But when it comes to our habits, there's no such thing as small stuff. Because of the cumulative effect and the compounding interest, there's some examples here. Saving $2 a day and putting it in a retirement account is not small stuff. Eating an extra 100-calorie bag is not small stuff. Deciding to skip working out today is not small stuff. Telling your spouse, I love you, again, is not small stuff. Having one more drink is not small stuff. Writing an encouraging letter to your child is not small stuff. Taking a couple of minutes to pray before you start your day is not small stuff. So these are just all these examples of little things that we might do that over time, if we do them consistently, have a huge impact. And another quote, it says, what you do every day is turning you into the person you will become and leading you into the life you will live. What you do occasionally does not make a difference. What you do consistently makes all the difference. So hopefully you can see Craig Rochelle's really kind of diving deeper into this idea of you reap more than you sow, showing us how the small things, our small habits that we do each day or each week have a substantial impact on where our lives go. He provides an exercise for this section, and we'll go through it at a high level. And then, as always, I encourage you, if you have time this week coming up, to go through this on your own. So it says, give some examples from your own life of when you have seen the effect of cumulative and compound choices at work, either positive or negative. So he outlines different, parts of your life, like financial, physical, spiritual, as part of the exercise. So just trying to write down some examples and recall examples that you've seen personally. And then there's some other questions. So it says, what was the smallest decision you've ever made that had the greatest impact on your life? Then he goes into what was the greatest small stuff act that impacted your life, such as a word of encouragement, an act of kindness, or a simple gift. And then we have a last one that was what was the last small stuff act of your own that impacted someone else? So this is our exercise. And then we have a principle for this section. Of course, as you reap more than you sow, a small change can change everything. Passage of scripture, Matthew 25:29 of the New Living Translation says, to those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. That's all for this episode. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, give us a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes.